This is a Takagi Marco 2B Ultra, and it's having an issue with the binocular head eyepiece. The issue is when we're turning this knurled knob, the eyepiece is moving out. It's supposed to stay with it. The eyepiece moves out when we're screwing in. So something is keeping this eyepiece from staying in place while we're turning it in. On this one, the issue is the eyepiece plate stopper that's on the inside of here. It goes underneath the eyepiece, keeps it in place, has been bent, and instead of traveling underneath this little track, it's hitting the eyepiece and pushing it out as you screw it in. So this little plate stopper, it's pretty thin metal, and it can get bent and then be in the way of your eyepiece while it's traveling in and out. And that can happen by, if these haven't been used very often and they become really stiff and force is put on these to turn, they could turn prematurely and actually bend the little plate stopper, or it could be screwed all the way out and then continue to turn, which will also bend this stopper. So it can happen, and if your eyepieces are frozen, a good thing to do is heat them up with a heat gun to free them up and not try to force them to turn without heating them up, because this little stopper can bend, get in the way, and keep your eyepiece from staying put while you turn it in. So we're going to have to replace this one. It got bent. I tried to straighten it out, but it's still not perfect, and so it still catches the eyepiece. So I'm going to have to take it off and replace it with a new one. So after you take it off your binocular head off your slit lamp, we might as well go ahead and take off this whole prism assembly off the binocular head. So we'd have to remove the safety screw underneath. Once the safety screw is removed, you can pull this prism assembly out, and you'll notice this is where the safety screw goes in. That's its path. This is what keeps it inside. Okay. Remove these 3 screws if you haven't done so already. There's another video talking about the hog strike prism assembly cleaning tips that are similar to this Marco, but it's a little different. And as in the other one, we're going to be taking out this prism assembly because we've got to get to the key, and it's behind here. On the hog stripe, the screws are accessible here. You could unscrew it and pull the stopper out and put a new one in and just screw them in here. But the Takagi Marco, the screws are on the inside. So you're going to have to go deeper. And before we take this prism assembly out, what's really important to maintain alignment as close as you can is to mark where this fits into this housing. This prism assembly disc fitting into this housing. So you need to make some clear identifying marks so that when you put everything back together, you will get it as close to the original spot that you had it in. So what I like to do is I like to find where this groove is and just go straight up here to make my mark. And I've already put a little mark right here with my razor blade. Marking both edges so that I can tell where this edge, these two spots, this is going to be my point of reference when I put it back together. So if you can make a clear mark right where the two connect, that will help you later. And then you can make a longer mark here so you can tell where your mark is. But try to make that a clear mark for yourself. And look at it and remember it, because when you put it back together, you want to try to get it back exactly the way it was. So after you've made a mark there, you can take the bigger screws out. There's 3. Take those out. That will enable you to take the prism assembly out of the shell. Once those 3 larger screws are out, your prism assembly can come out. And see, it can turn in here, so the clearer your mark is will help you to get it back into position. Just pull it straight out. Be careful, you don't want to damage these prism edges as you're pulling it out. Pull it straight out. We'll put our housing to the side. So to get to the screws of that stopper, they're behind this disc, unfortunately. And so we're going to have to go further and take this prism assembly disc out of this housing. And once again, we're going to want to make some identifying marks that will help you to determine exactly where you're putting it back together. And you might want to familiarize yourself with how it goes in. See, this big angled prism surface is going right where the view is. So when you're putting it back on, watch the view, and it's going to go through this prism first. So that's going to orient you. But if you make a mark here, that's important. Okay, once you've made some good marks, I even made some here and here, right at this opening, to help me to get it perfect, or as close to perfect as I can. Okay, once you've marked it, now it's time to take this assembly out. And it's going to be by the 3 small screws. But I would suggest just taking one out completely, or one out enough, and perhaps that will be enough room to take this prism assembly out, so that when you have to put it back in, the other 2 are already set, and you only will have to put in the last screw to reattach your assembly. So I'm going to choose to use this screw. And I'm using a 2.0 by 50 screwdriver. Now these might be tight. You might have to put some acetone on there because they have some type of glue or paint to keep them from moving. So I've already done that, so they are clean. And I'm going to take this screw out a lot, not completely out, you don't have to, but just enough to see if that's going to give me enough clearance for this disc to come out. And it does. Now you notice, right where I took it out, see that mark behind the screw? This mark? That's going to go right back where that I just took that screw out. So this is going to help you too when you're putting this back in, is align that mark right with that screw that you just took out and try to get it right back on that same spot. Looking at that, looking at your mark, and then tightening it up, and to see if you can get it all back into the same alignment. But now we've gotten this prism assembly disc out. I could put that to the side. It should be clean, but if it's not clean, you can shine your light through it to see if it's foggy. And if it's foggy, yeah, do clean it. And if not, then you're fine. So now we've gotten to the 2 screws. The 2 screws for our stopper. And they're right here. I'm taking this eyepiece out. So these are the 2 screws. Okay, here's the stopper that was in it. It was bent. I tried to straighten it, but it wasn't perfect because I think this angle, I needed to twist this a little straighter, because even though one side was down, the other side was up, and that's what was hitting it. So yeah, I could go ahead and twist this to get it straight, and you might have to because you might not have access. So you're going to have to try to straighten this plate out, and the angle is less than 90 degrees. It's not a 90 degrees, it's a little tighter than 90. That will make it fit very flat down here. So get that, or I'm going to put a new one in because I have access to the parts. So I'm going to put my new one in, put my screws in, and then put a little glue on them. Okay, I'll put my screws in, I'll put a little polish on those screw heads to keep them from loosening. and just going to verify that everything is copacetic. Put my eyepiece back in and screw it in and see if it moves. Okay, verifies it's not going to move because it's staying underneath that stopper. Okay, it's possible that it could have gotten bent and then your outer ring has gotten off sync and it's not starting, it's not going to end up at the same number. See, when you screw it all the way in, it's going to end up at a certain spot between the 2 8s, somewhere around there, and this one is going to end up there. So that's where that's the factory reset, is right there. Now, if yours has come off and it's gone out of sync, you're going to have to start over again when you're lining it back up. And usually, if you turn it to if you look on the minus side, if you go to the number 4 minus, that should be in the alignment to align you back up to your stopper, because both pieces move. See, this will move these will move independently of each other. So when you restart it, you want to turn your piece to about where the 4 is, your marker, and then your track will line up with your stopper. Once we have that in, now we can reassemble this prism assembly disc back into our housing, back into this housing. And okay, we're going to be looking to where this is going to be where the eyepiece is, and we're going to be looking for our mark, and we're going to be looking at our screw point. So here's our housing, here's our, we know it's going to go somewhere, something like that. Oops. Our angle is going to go in that position. We're looking at our marks. Here's our mark is lining up, and now we're going to look for our screw indentation. There it is. So we're going to try to put that mark right underneath that screw. It moves pretty easily, so make sure your marks here are good because it can turn easily. Once you think you've gotten it close to where you want it, or exactly where you want it, go ahead and tighten your screw back in. So these should already be in place and at the correct depth. So it's just the one you took out is the one you're going to have to worry about. And once you have that and you're looking at all your marks, you need to tweak it if you need to. And I'll tweak mine in a minute, but I'm going a little faster just for this video. And then once you have your discs reinserted, it's time to go back into the shell and looking for your mark, and look for your mark out here. I see my mark right there, and I see my mark here. I'm going to line those back up. You may not be able to see it, but I can see it. And now I can reinsert my 3 screws. After you've inserted your 3 screws, you can either put the cap back on or leave it loose, because you may have to tweak the alignment later. You'll have to check it, and it's, since you've already got the cover off, you can get to your little screws. Remember, it's the little screws that are adjusting the prism. And if you got it back on the same mark, it should be good, pretty good. But if not, you're going to have to tweak it by looking through your binocular. And we're going to insert our eyepiece back in and verify that it's working. So now when we adjust the focus, our eyepiece is going to stay right in place because the little stopper is not in the way, it's not interfering. And we're going to reinsert into our housing, and if you had to clean these and reinstalled number 4 grease, hog strike number 4, just a little bit of grease there, and reinsert it. You know that this is going to go on the bottom where your safety screws are, so you can start lining it back up. And you have to kind of force it in while you're twisting, and look underneath and make sure you're not turned too far, that it's going to mess your screw up either way. And then put your safety screw back in. And then reattach it to your slit lamp and look through your binoculars. It's better if you have a larger eyepiece to get a bigger circle, but you're going to want to look through each eyepiece and verify that one eye looks the same as the other one. If the one you worked on is a little off, then you're going to have to turn your little screws, your adjusting screws, so that both eyepieces, the light is, and the dark around the light is equal to each other to prevent collimation. So just remember, you're going to need to check it to see if you were able to put everything back together as it came off. And here's the number that I have of this plate stopper, and that might be the number. Once you've checked your alignment and verified everything is good, you can go ahead and put your cover screws back on, and you're done. Just as a reminder, if your knurled knob is really tight, heat it up with a heat gun to loosen it up, and be careful about forcing it. And also, when you get to the very end out, be careful about turning it more, because you can bend that stopper. It's very thin metal, and it can easily be bent.